The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
I'm the little tooth sticking out of the corner of Frankie's mouth.
Yep. So we are talking this week about Monstrosity, which I don't know. Have you seen other Andy Milligan movies?
I had not, but I've been reading up on it. What have you? Did you know much about him?
So, yeah, it's interesting. Like, I had never seen this one until this week, but a couple years ago, Severin Pictures released, like, a box set of, like, a bunch of his movies together, and I wasn't really familiar with him, and I, like, checked out the box set, and, like, I found them interesting, but they were all kind of very similar. They were sort of slow-paced and sort of, like, dour. Like, they weren't... They felt like they were inspired by like Italian Gothic horror, but like done on a low budget, and like they were interesting, but I didn't enjoy them as much as I'd hoped that I would. Whereas this like is a totally different, like this is a comedy. This is very like kind of fast and weird. I enjoyed this much more than anything that was in that box set. So I was very pleasantly surprised with this.
Yeah, I read. I checked a few podcasts and I watched a couple of his films, earlier films, like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. It seemed like those films were pretty much plotless, and there was a lot of people just kind of angry, just talking, and the dialogue was going nowhere. This is a very different film, and it's really interesting. I was reading up a little bit about his bio, and he started in New York. All those films were he was making in New York, mm-hmm. and they was going out in 42nd Street, and then that was in the 70s and 80s. And then in the mid-'80s, he moved to Los Angeles, and mm-hmm. that's when he started making these comedies.
Okay.
And that's what this Monstrosity is one of his comedies, or horror comedy. He made 4 films that were like this. They were a little lighter,
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes me want to check out the other ones of those, because I liked this much more than the 42nd Street stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting. From the 2 that I watched, there was completely different films. The Monstrosity was, at least.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the New York one seemed like it was like he was trying to do sort of like genre stuff, but in like an artsy way. And I mean, they weren't bad. They just didn't really grab me. Like I forget, that box set had like 12 movies or something in it, and I could not like tell you a plot of any of them at this point. They all just kind of like merged together. They were all just kind of like sad stories about like sex workers, or like, it was just like they were all just kind of like dour. Whereas this just felt like everybody in the movie felt like they were having a good time. Like you could kind of get a sense of like some of these bits of dialogue might have been improvised, but like it just seemed like everyone was enjoying themselves. It's still low budget. It's still not like, like the actors are not the best actors, but like it's charming in sort of like the humor and the good time that everybody seems to be having.
Yeah. I think this film still probably pulls. There's some moments that I think still have parts that are like the earlier films, but mostly he's trying to be a little more comic and different and easier and a little funner, you know.
Yeah, he definitely has like a fascination with like, you know, people dealing with like drug addiction and sex workers and you know, brutal crimes and stuff. But like, yeah, in this it seems like he's willing to kind of explore that in a more comedic way, which is more interesting and kind of lets you get away with some darker stuff in a way that like doesn't turn the audience off.
Right. Gets a little heavy.
yeah, there are a few. I mean, especially early on, there's some pretty rough stuff.
Yeah.
But all right, yeah, you want to go ahead and like dig into
let's jump in, and we can always come back to come back to this.
So, you know, the LA stuff right away, like he's really letting you know we're in LA now. We've got we see the Hollywood sign, we see the Griffith Observatory, you know, that is sort of famous from like Rebel Without a Cause. Lots of, you know, Hollywood landmarks.
Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah. And then we, you know, and I would say that this movie has a lot of like establishing shots where we're definitely going to like let you know where we are a lot. But then we go into like seemed like a Mexican grocery store, and there's like a kind of strange old man buying some groceries. And it seems like he must go there a lot. Like the woman at the cash register knows him. They have a little bit of an interaction, but he just seems like a kind of a local character, you know? But when he leaves the grocery, he's like, you know, it's night. He's walking, the streets are kind of not very crowded. There's not really a lot going on. And he's suddenly accosted by a group of like 3 or 4 younger like hoodlum types, and they of course, you know, they're trying to get money from him. He doesn't have any. They knock his groceries, you know, they spill everywhere, and because he doesn't have any money, they eventually lose patience and kill him. They like slit his throat and just drop him in the alley, so we get some like bright red gore. Like there's definitely a lot of like, they have fun with like, you know, the red paint blood that you would see in you know, like Italian or Spanish horror, or like you know, the giallo kind of thing. And then once they do that, like we're establishing that these guys are bad. Like they're very bad. They're not just, you know, robbers. They're willing to just kill for no real reason. And we see them after that, like carjack a woman. They leave her in the car and drive off for a while, and then dump her by the side of the road, beaten up, bloody, and everything. And then we cut from them to a young couple who are they're making plans. They're going to throw a party this weekend. They're going to get all their friends together. We're just seeing them very, you know, everything's happy here. Everything's good. It's a very stark contrast to what we've just been seeing. Which, of course, you know, there's a lot of tension there because we have these two very different scenes, and right away it was like, okay, this is getting ready to, these are going to collide very soon. And yeah, sure enough, like I think he drops her. They're like a couple, but they're not married. They don't live together. So he like drops her off at her apartment, and like, you know, they have like a nice little goodbye where he's like, I could come up, and she's like, yeah, I would, but I got to work early in the morning. I'll see you tomorrow. So he leaves, and then that's when the guys show up, break into her apartment, and there is no comedy in this scene. It's brutal. We get like
really brutal.
Yeah, they just try to scare her. You know, we get a little bit of just her being intimidated and fearful, and of course she's afraid. We as the viewers are even more afraid because we've seen what they've done already in this movie. We know what they're willing and capable of doing. And yeah, sure enough, they end up beating her, and it leads to a sexual assault that thankfully is pretty, like, we kind of cut away from it. You definitely know what happens. It's unpleasant, but it doesn't dwell on the physicality in the way that, some horror movies will.
I don't want to lean too hard into Milligan's backstory, but he did have an abusive relationship with his mother, and with women in general. So I don't know if that was part of that, but this was just brutal and not very fun, and I don't know. Didn't do much for the movie, really. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
just bringing it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, this felt more like what his earlier stuff that I was more familiar with was. I still didn't know at this point in the film that we were going to be in a comedy. It definitely does not let you know that that's where things are going. Yeah, it is very brutal, and I think we go from that scene right to the hospital where we have the boyfriend that dropped her off. We'll eventually get his name is Mark. He's there with a friend who I think his name's Scott. Is that right? It's either Scott or Steve.
Scott is his buddy, right?
Yeah. So Mark and Scott are there talking to a doctor that they seem to know. They're like, thanks for taking care of this. They seem to have some connection to him, and they're just sort of discussing the her how things are going with her. Her name is Ronnie, and she. It seems like she's okay, she's gonna be okay, but obviously her injuries are bad. She's gonna have a lot of emotional trauma from this, but it looks like she'll be okay. And then so we have just the three men sort of talking about her, and then we see that she's behind this curtain. She wakes up and is crying, so Mark goes to be with her and comfort her, and it all feels good, for this time and everything. There's definitely movies where a woman is assaulted and then the boyfriend is weird and gross about it, but no, Mark seems like a good guy here. He seems like he wants to comfort her, and he is trying to take care of her, and we go from that to another couple that we'll find out are also friends of Mark and Ronnie's. This is Carlos, and I don't remember his girlfriend's name, but they're kind of discussing the events, the things that happened to Ronnie, and I think she's like, well, hopefully her attackers are found and caught and jailed, and he's like, yeah, but what happens when they're let out? And she's like, well, hopefully they're jailed forever, and he's like, the justice system's a mess. That's not going to happen, unfortunately. These guys, if they even get caught and prosecuted at all, are likely to be out before too long. And this felt like, again, not knowing where this is going, I was like, okay, this seems like sort of dark commentary about the sad state of our actual justice system.
It does not sound like a comedy.
Yeah. So we end up going from this sort of dark conversation that just feels very real, back to the hospital where two police officers show up, and they have a book of, it's sort of like a police lineup, but in scrapbook form, and they want Ronnie to look through it and see if she recognizes anyone as being from the group of men that attacked her. I
don't know if you noticed, but there were no photos in that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's just like a big photo album. But yeah, they're definitely trying to keep just let you see the back, the cover of the book. But yeah, and so she flips through a page or two, and then is like, well, I'm still a little out of it. Can I hang on to it? I'll look at it later, and I'll get back to you if I see anything. And they're happy to leave it with her. And then after they leave, we have a man come in. It seems to be a doctor. He's got a surgical mask, the full, cap and gown and everything. And I think she's at first she says hi dad, like, and which makes me think like I guess her father works at the hospital as well. And he doesn't say anything. He just kind of like stands over her. He like kind of messes with some the equipment near her or whatever, but he's just kind of it's like right away I was like, this is bad. Something bad is about to happen, because he's just not saying anything. He's very like mechanical, and she's flipping through the book while he's doing his work. And then all of a sudden she stops and she's like, wait, call the police right away, call them. And that's when the man reaches into his scrub pocket, pulls out wire cutters, and just snips the phone cord. And then just starts evilly laughing and climbing into bed with her. And then we see that it's, of course, her attacker from earlier. And here again, this is pretty brutal. He like really brutal. He at first, like, I mean, obviously he does not want to be identified to the police. We know where this is, but like, it's just, I mean, he just like punches her for a while just to like make her suffer before he finally pulls out a scalpel and ends up killing her. And we get like, some really over the top gore here where he's like pulling out her intestines and stuff. It felt like a Herschel Gordon Lewis level of gore.
Yeah, totally. He pulls all her guts out.
Yeah.
Like literally, yeah.
And again, at no point in this does this feel like it's going to become like a wacky comedy. But once he does like kill her, he does. This seemed like a bad choice to me. He like flips through the book and pulls 3 photos out of it. Obviously him and his 2, accomplices.
And he's miming this because there's no photos. He's just like, yeah. This one.
Yeah, it's like you see him kind of pull, and then like he kind of like acts like he's like wadding it up in his hand and like sticking him in his pocket. But you never see a physical item. No. And I mean, presumably, if the cops have this book, they either have more exact versions of this book, or they at least have on file what's in the book. So right. He is now identified who the 3 attackers are. Clearly, they're the 3 that aren't in the book anymore.
That's right. That's really a good point.
Yeah, but we go like as soon as he leaves with the he drops the he doesn't taking the whole book would have made more sense, or just leaving it alone. But he leaves the book with the 3 pictures torn out, and that's like moments later. The doctor and Mark, the boyfriend, come to visit Ronnie, and of course find a gruesome scene. So she was going to be okay, but now obviously she's very dead. And I think that we kind of have like a little bit of a time jump. We just cut to like the 2 cops from earlier, like standing on a street corner, and I think this is like the first moment where I was like, oh, this is the tone of this is weird, because we just have them chatting and they're like talking about like one of them's having an affair and it's with like a stripper or something, and they're like it's just a silly conversation that feels really out of left field from what we've seen so far in the movie. And this is when
we're probably almost 30 minutes into the film or something at this point.
Yeah. I mean, this is of course like, I mean, I think it's like an hour 40 or something. It's a little longer than our like hour and a half that a lot of genre stuff is, but it's certainly still a fairly tight movie. So it's wild to be this far into it, and we don't have anything Frankenstein-y, and we don't have really much of a light tone at all. But yeah, Mark ends up pulling up next to them in like a Volkswagen bus, and they all get into the back to talk. And basically Mark's like, I want revenge. I want to find the guys who did this and kill them. And the cops are like, we've got this under control. Let the wheels of justice do their thing. They're this feels, I mean, we see this all the time. Like the angry family who wants vengeance, and the police that are like, the justice system, all that kind of stuff. But where it changes here is like, we get to that point, the cops are going to leave, and one cop gets out of the van, and then the other one's like, don't tell my partner, but I'll give you some info about the three guys. Like, just be cool. And he like gives him their names and their addresses, and then leaves.
Right, I forgot that too. Yeah, right.
So it feels like we're definitely, like, we know now we're gonna get a story of vengeance. This seems like, it's kind of a rape revenge story, right? But
right.
Obviously, I feel like I've seen quite a few of those. I mean, I understand this genre. It always feels more like cathartic when it's like the woman who was wronged is able to get revenge for her own suffering. But then you have movies like this, or like Last House on the Left, where it's like the women who were wronged are dead, and now their families, the people who feel some sort of like ownership over them, are the ones who are taking the revenge. And that never feels as good. It feels like, whether the wrongdoers or the family, it all feels like these women are just property that are being bounced around between people, and it's like, you hurt the thing that belonged to me, and now I'm going to get revenge. And so, yeah, they never feel as like cathartic, and but of course, and in this one, it's a whole different thing, because things are about to get real weird.
Yeah.
Because, I think the next scene is like Mark talking to his two friends, Scott and Carlos, and the friends are like, yeah, I mean, I know you want vengeance and everything, but like, then you're going to do murders, and you're going to have to live with that. That's going to be on your conscience, that you've become a murderer. And do you really think you can live with that? Do you really want that for the rest of your life? You are the person who committed murder. And Mark's like, well, but I have to get justice for Ronnie. And I think it's Carlos is like, okay, but hear me out. I've got an idea. Have you ever heard of the Golem? And Mark's like, what? And he's like, so there's this Jewish myth about this rabbi who like built a man out of clay, and he took revenge on the people that were hurting the Jewish people in this village and everything. Like, he's telling the original, like, Rabbi Ben Lo Golem story. I think we did a movie that we talked about years ago now at this point, about that story. But like right away, all three of the guys are like, oh yeah, we should do that. We should,
yeah.
This is and Carlos is like, well, even better, we have access to a medical lab because of Scott. So what if we go and get corpse parts, and we can make a flesh golem, and then we can use him to get revenge for, and all the guys are like, yeah, we're in. Like, I mean, they basically like practically like put their hands in a, it's like they're in.
They're like high-fiving and saying, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And it's like these party boys are like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do revenge. Yeah, vengeance.
Yeah,
it's exactly what you were talking about. It's just like, oh my god, it's so fucked up.
Yeah, and it's like absolute tonal whiplash. Like, everything has been dark and grimy and gritty, and now suddenly we have this, like, I mean, the conversation is just absurd. Like, and
yeah.
Like, I was like, I still wasn't quite sure that this was going to become a comedy. So I was like, is this just really bad writing? Or is this like, yeah, are we having a huge tone shift here? Because like,
yeah.
It's so ridiculous, but I couldn't tell if it was ridiculous on purpose or not yet.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, we're not kidding. They're high-fiving and jumping up and down, and he's saying, yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. And we go straight from that to like they are in their science lab, which seems to be like a shed behind Mark's house.
Yeah.
And they've got corpse parts, and they're talking about where they got everything. The only head that they could find that was intact was from a disgusting pervert who died recently, they said. But they think they've got a good brain and some good like organs and everything. And also they're missing an arm and a leg, but think Carlos somehow knows a guy who was a circus performer who had a gorilla that died, and they're like, so we got a gorilla arm and a gorilla leg that we can put into the mix. Like, it's just the sort of wackiest version. You know, I mean, like, a lot of the like Frankenstein stories were kind of vague about like, oh, charnel houses, maybe the parts weren't all from humans, but it's never like, you know, well, we're gonna have to shave that gorilla arm. It's never that specific and like silly.
Yeah.
But they start, you know, putting everything together, and of course this scene is very gory and very silly. And I think that at this point I was like, okay, yeah, this is becoming a comedy. Like, this is intentionally to the point that, like, so we had earlier. When Ronnie is killed, we have the killer pulling her intestines out, like, you know, in loops, you know, like a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie. I mean, it's like, you know, sausages or whatever that they're like pulling out. But now they're putting the intestines into the creature, but rather than, like, you know, doing it in any sort of realistic way, they have filmed a pulling them out in, you know, scene, and then done it in reverse. So it's like they're like slowly like guiding loops of intestines into this body. It's very goofy looking, and I mean, like, intentionally so. And yeah, so I think that's like the last thing they're putting in, and they're like, okay, now it's time to revive him. But first, what are we going to call him? What's a good name for this creation? And I think Carlos is like, I've got it. What if we call him Frankie, after Mary Shelley's Frankenstein? And we get, you know, kind of, we're like, what about Boris? Because Boris Karloff played Frankenstein. And, well, I thought it was actually the monster. Frankenstein's the doctor, right? Isn't that doing that whole thing? And they're like, nah, let's just call him Frankie. It's fine. That seems like, he looks like a Frankie. Sure, let's do that. So the way that they revive him.
And one thing is, this is when the music starts to really come at you. Do you remember, it was like this synthesizer, and it's this da-dum, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. It was just getting so it was driving me nuts. Yeah, but that's supposed to be like funny and, you know, like high jinks music, you know.
The soundtrack in this is very obtrusive. Like, I noticed that at the beginning, like when we're getting a lot of the establishing shots, it's like synth with some like weird like wailing electrical guitars, and it's like too loud, and it's like, but like, as it like, I think that maybe was intentional as well, to like, we have this sort of like kind of dark, intense soundtrack as the movie starts, and then we're like, the soundtrack's letting us know like we're being silly now. Like, it's almost like the like what Baby Elephant March kind of, like, it's very goofy.
Exactly. Funny time.
Yeah. And they're being kind of silly. They inject like a bunch of blood in, like, this is instead of they don't really know how to revive a monster yet. They've sewn this thing together, but they don't really seem to have a plan. They're like, well, let's just fill it up with blood. That'll be the first step, and then we'll see what happens. And I think we cut away from them, like they have like, you know, big syringes that they're like filling in with blood, and then we see the two, you know, so it seemed like this was like a group of friends. There was like 6 of them, you know, 3 couples. So now we have the 2 girlfriends who, you know, not Ronnie obviously, but the other 2, and they're like, Scott and Carlos have been kind of weird since Ronnie died. Like, they haven't been around much, and when I ask them what they've been up to, they're real, you know, kind of cagey about what's going on. We need to get to the bottom of this, because these guys, I don't know, it just doesn't seem good. And sure enough, that like, we cut back to them in their lab, and they're like, man, nothing's working. We've tried incantations from black magic. We've read from the Book of the Dead. We prayed to God. We tried devil worship. And nothing's working. What are we gonna do? So, and then they like, you know, throw an electrical switch. They're like, well, let's try the electricity again. Maybe that's the answer. And we have like smoke and fire. Like the creature catches fire. Like, it's no good. And so they shut everything down. They're like, okay, I guess this was a failure. Let's just take him apart and just give up on this. But first, pizza. Let's have some pizza. We'll take him apart later.
Of course, pizza joke.
Yeah, like they're all like blood up to their elbows and stuff. And they're like, you know what sounds good right now? A nice slice of pizza. Let's do that.
Sure.
And so as they head out, all three of them like kind of give the monster a little salute, like, you know, sort of like, thanks for your help. Sorry it didn't work out. And so they all head out. But so Carlos and Scott leave, and then right before Mark leaves, I don't know, feels a little more attached to the creature. He picks up this big teddy bear that I'm guessing was Ronnie's, and he sets it on the creature's chest, and walks out. And as soon as he walks out, the teddy bear sort of like tips over and almost looks like it's like hugging the monster now. It like falls face forward onto him. And as it does that, we get the most like generic kids movie magic sound effect that you like, just like this little twinkly like sound, and it's like, okay, this teddy bear has somehow filled the monster with love, and it's gonna just somehow work. Like, it's obvious. Yeah. This is what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
which fits right in this movie, right?
yeah, very, very silly. Like it almost feels like it's a kid's movie, except that it's got all this horrific gore and everything. Like, it's just
exactly.
Yeah, like that sound effect sounds like something that would be like, you know, from a Peter Pan movie or something, you know.
Yeah, totally.
But so we cut right from that to like the next morning, where the guys have all gotten up. They're like, okay, you know, we had some time to rest. Let's go deal with the creature. Let's take it apart. And so they go into their little shed, and that's when the creature just sits up all of a sudden, and we get our, you know, we got to have the moment where the doctor realizes that the creature's alive, but instead of it being a victorious "it's alive," I think we have Mark, who's like, "Holy shit, it's alive!" And from there, we get like a pretty good, you know, we often have this, once the creature's alive, the doctor, you know, sort of flips and doesn't really care about his creation anymore. But here, no, these guys are like, we've got this thing, we have a responsibility now. So they start teaching him. They're like, you know, me, Mark, you, Frankie, and they do the whole thing. They teach him the word friend, and the monster is just sort of, you know, repeating the words. And it's a very much like a Boris Karloff in Bride of Frankenstein, when he just, you know, sort of repeating things and is sort of like, you know, yes, friend, and that kind of thing. Like, and we kind of have like a little later, you know, some amount of time's passed. They're continuing to teach him, and Carlos has just read him like a children's book. And he's like, all right, now it's time. We're going to start working on how to kill, or we're going to do the kill lesson. And the monster's like, no, 3 bears again. I want 3 bears. And he's like, no, we're going to talk about killing now. And it's just, again, so silly. Like, he's just this big kid, and they're like, you're a death machine. That's what we made you for. So we're going to teach you. And I think he's like holding up a poster from like Rambo or some kind of like, you know, action.
Hello.
Yeah, I think it might be it's something like that anyway. And that's when Mark and Scott come in, and they're like, we took the information from the cops, we found the guys, it's time, so we got to get him ready to kill. And they're like, come on, Frankie, we'll show you. And so we have him, like, he's like, no, I don't want to watch a scary movie, I want to read the 3 bears. And they're like, time to murder, come with us. So maybe they should have waited a little bit. Cut from that to a scene with like these 2 like punk girls, you know, they've got like leather jackets and spike bracelets, and, you know, I mean, this is genre movies from this time period really love to, like, you know, lean into punk stereotypes, whether it's like Return of the Living Dead or what. I'm like, we see a lot of this kind of thing. And I thought this scene was very funny because it was really over the top, but like they're talking about like how much their boyfriends love them, and one of the girls is like, I mean, you know, he's kind of, you know, he's not very nice to me, but I mean, he carved his initials into my shoulder. I mean, like, if that's not true love, I don't know what is. Not many guys are that loving. So, you know, they definitely a toxic, bad relationship here that these girls don't realize they're in. But like to a point that's comedic, you know. And at first I thought like these girls might be like the girlfriends of our, our attackers. And sure enough, that's when the attackers show up. But no, it turns out these girls have different guys that are their boyfriends and are like violent hoodlums, end up like robbing them. Like I think they kill they kill one of the punk guys, and maybe like seriously injure one of the girls. Like one of the girls is tied up and okay. Like we just get this sort of like obviously violent scene. One of the guys gets like they run him over with a car.
Yeah, we're back to like this unnecessary cruelty. It's just not very fun.
Yeah, it almost seems like he's trying to make it more over the top so that it feels comedic, but it doesn't feel comedic. Like,
with the driving the.
Yeah, because I mean that happens. People really do that, and it's not. There's certainly nothing funny about it when it really happens, and this feels like it's depicting it fairly realistically. But sure enough, this is when we knew that Frankie and the three good guys are looking for the killers, and they show up, and we have Frankie he's got like a meat cleaver and like kills one of the guys. I think actually the leader, which is weird. Usually these kind of things we like escalate. We have like
exactly. I was going to say the same thing.
But yeah, I mean, he like splits his head open with a meat cleaver. He's done. The main bad guy, the guy that did the actual murder and the assault and everything, he's already done. Like the vengeance is over. And I think we have like the one of the like punk girls, not the one whose boyfriend has branded her, but the other one. Frankie picks her up in like the classic sort of like the monster carrying the woman like in his arms kind of pose, and carries her back to his shed. And she like wakes up, sees this. I guess we haven't really described Frankie. He is, it's just like a big guy. They have a ridiculous wig. Like, I think at some point they even say it's a wig. Like, it's not supposed to be real hair. It's just like this crazy teased out red hair that's just sticking out in all directions. He has one weird tooth sticking out at a strange angle that's just like, some sort of fake denture appliance or whatever. And then like one of his eyes is wonky. They've like put makeup over one eye to make it weird. But for the most part, he's just like a big guy with a few pieces of makeup to make him sort of monstrous. Weirdly, like I have this on DVD, and like on the cover of the DVD, it's this actor with the face prosthetics and stuff, but he's just not wearing the wig. He's bald, and like he looks a lot scarier, less ridiculous. And so again, my copy of this DVD, I was like, oh yeah, this looks like a gruesome sort of horror movie. I don't know what this shot on the cover is from, because never does he remove the wig in this movie. He is always in this wacky red wig.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very strange. But yeah, so when the girl wakes up, she sees him. Obviously, he's kind of weird and monstrous. She faints again right away, and then like we have like a little later, she wakes up again. And it's like, what happened? And when she realizes that like everybody that she was with was hurt and killed, and that this kind of scary looking guy saved her, she's grateful. She thanks him, and she's like, you seem like kind of strange, but I like you. I kind of like you. So and like it sort of makes sense. Like we have these like punk weirdos who are like okay with looking kind of strange themselves, and so of course they would be a little bit more open to befriending a Frankenstein monster. And we find out that she's like, a drug addict, and they kind of do it as sort of a comedy thing where she's like, what are your favorite drugs? And he's like, what? Like, he doesn't have any sort of context for any of this stuff. And she's like, I think she says something like, I'm a fan of like meth. What do you like? And he's like, I like you. And she's like, well, I like you too. And, I've never really had a real boyfriend. There's been, guys around, but like nobody nobody
I
who
love
really
that-
liked me.
That she's sort of the bride already, right?
Yeah, it feels like, she's a bride figure that is making a choice to be there, that is not being made for him, but that, like, they're sort of equals. They're, she's kind of, her drugs and her, sort of punk rock weirdo qualities and stuff. She's sort of monstrous in terms of, like, how society views people, especially at this time. So yeah, it feels organic and like this could be something real. And I think she, like, we find out her name is Jamie. Her name is actually, it's like Jamie Lee Curtis Wachowski or something. Like, her mom was a big fan of horror movies.
You got it.
Yeah. Which I thought was funny. And they kiss. And when they filled Frankie with blood earlier, there's this whole thing where they're like, we're not really sure. Because of this revival process, we need to, like, really fill him up with blood. And so from this point on, we'll kind of have this running gag where, like, if he gets overexcited, he'll just, like, spring a leak and spray blood. And yeah, sure enough, here they kiss and, like, blood just shoots out of his eye and just sprays all over her face while they're kissing. But because she's a punk weirdo and does drugs and everything, she's just like, okay, that's a mess, but okay, that's fine. Like, it doesn't bother her at all. She's like, they're having this kind of sweet moment, and she's like, so do you want to nail me, Frankie? Because she has no, like, there's no sort of, like, attempt at being romantic here. Like, she's just like, let's have sex, basically. And Frankie obviously is like a child, really, mentally, and he's just like, what? And she's like, wait, you're a virgin? I didn't know they even had those in Hollywood. They kiss again, and he sprays blood all over her face again, and she's like, all right, let's get in bed. If the blood doesn't bother you, it don't bother me. So we have, they seem made for each other. They're fine. Like, all their weird qualities don't bother each other. So it's sort of a match made in heaven. We go back to, like, Mark and Scott, who are, like, the site of the, like, earlier attack. Was it like one of those, like, car washes where you drive in and wash your car yourself?
Yes.
That's what. Yeah, it's just, like a concrete block that's open on either end. Just like two walls and a ceiling. And so when we have Mark and Scott there, like, and they see the scene of the crime, but they don't see Frankie, and they're like, where is he? We cut from them back to where Frankie is. He's in bed with Jamie, cuddled up with the teddy bear, the three of them in on this little, surgical slab. And Jamie wakes up and is like, like, nudges Frankie awake and is like, wow, you're some lover boy. And, she's like, you're a real animal. It's sort of sweet. But suddenly Frankie realizes, like, oh, the guys are probably going to be here soon, and, like, it's probably not good for them to find her here. So he's like, you need to go now. And she's like, what about, I can make you breakfast, we can hang out for a little while. And he's like, no, later, you go now, go. And he sends her away. She doesn't, again, because she's kind of, a little ditzy and, like, drug addled or whatever. Like, this scene, normally it feels like she'd be like, why are you kicking me out? Like, she'd be upset, but she's just like, okay, see you later, Frankie. And she leaves. And yeah, sure enough, the guys show up and they're like, all right, it's time to get back into kill mode. We've got more guys to kill. They they're like explaining what they want him to do or whatever. And they're like, this should be easy. We'll show him the pictures and everything. Frankie has, one of them says Frankie has a phonographic memory. And the other guy's like, don't you mean a photographic memory? And he's like, no. He repeats everything that we say to him, and then once he repeats it, he remembers it. So it's phonographic. And we go from them to our other two attackers from earlier. And again, this scene felt like it was trying to still be a comedy, but to me, it was kind of just mean. Like, it just felt mean-spirited and, like, not funny to me. we have like one of the two like hoodlum guys has like a woman with him, and they're sort of like bickering with each other. Like I think they've clearly like they had sex before this scene starts, and she like tries to charge him for it, and he's like, "You're not worth that." And it just like everybody just doesn't like each other here, and it just was like I didn't find any real humor here. It's just like they don't like each other, and that's supposed to be the comedy. Like she says something about like, or she's trying to charge him, and he's like, what I pay for is not having to talk afterwards, and you talk at me all the time, just like my old wife used to do, and I hate that. And she's like, well, where's your wife? And he's like, I don't know. She's, I don't really mess with her anymore. But finally, he kind of like forces her out, just sends her away, and we have like he goes into the next room where the other hoodlum guy is, and they start talking, and they also are kind of arguing. They don't really seem to like each other either. I think like one of the guys is like, I'm gonna go get some burritos. Do you want something? And he's like, yeah, get me a burrito. So he leaves. So now we've just got like the one guy by himself. Splitting them up it's the perfect time for Frankie to show up. So there's a knock at the door, and the guy's like, "Did you forget your wallet? What you can't already be back with the burritos." And he opens the door, and it's Frankie bursts in, and we get like another pretty brutal sort of like fight scene that ends with Frankie like hammering a nail into this guy's skull. Like he like carefully holds the nail with one hand and like taps it into the guy's skull, and like blood's squirting out and everything. So like clearly Milligan is like having fun with like different ways to kill people in this movie. But yeah, I don't know. It's like somehow like a lot of like the slasher movies, I guess from this time and a little before and a little after, they managed to be like creative in their kills, and like more intentionally like gritty, but like over the top in a way that felt like sort of intentionally funny. Like you watch like a Jason movie or a Freddy movie or whatever, like there is this it feels like a really good balance of like brutality and comedy. And I don't know, this one, it like every time that it tries it feels like it can only do one or the other. It can never mesh the two as seamlessly as some of the other slashers did.
Agreed.
So yeah, so we have Frankie kills this guy, and then of course the other guy comes in right afterwards and right away finds his dead friend and is like, who's there, what's going on? And he's not just like, if I come into an apartment and my friend is dead there, I'm getting out. I'm not like wandering around looking for who maybe is responsible. But I guess when you're used to being around a lot of violence, it's a different story. So he's searching for the killer, and we get like him walking around like, who's there, what's going on? And he'll hear a sound and like turn, and they're really kind of playing up the tension there. And we just get Frankie. When we see Frankie, we're just seeing his feet. He's just like stalking around the apartment looking for the guy, and he of course is wearing like the most like comical Frankenstein platform boots you've ever seen. Like, I mean, the heels on these boots are like a good more than 6 inches tall. Like, they're huge. Eventually, of course, he finds the other guy. And he like chops off his hand and then chops off his head, and they like go flying and blood spraying everywhere. So now we are at this point, we have killed all of the guys that need to be killed. All of the vengeance mission should be over, and now we're maybe an hour into the movie, maybe a little bit more, but like we've still got a good chunk of movie left. It's like what do we have to do at this point?
Did you? There was one moment here. I don't know if you noticed, but at the end of that last murder, Milligan did what I learned was one of his key special technique was something he called the swirl camera.
Okay.
Where he would spin the camera around a bit and then point it to the ground, and that's how he would end the scene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was anyway. He did it, and that's something he's done in like many of his movies.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a way to spend a little less money. You know, like I don't know, but I learned that on a podcast that's something he did earlier, and I saw it. I was like, hey, he did the swell camera.
Interesting.
I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a sort of like a disorienting thing. Like, you know, something gruesome has happened, and like, you know, it's supposed to, you know, make you feel sort of shaken up. It makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. But you're right. We're an hour in. There's still like another 40 minutes. And they've killed everybody.
Yeah.
Like, what else is going to happen?
Yeah, which I was thinking, you know, as I'm watching, I'm like, we're going to have to have a big change in what's going on from here. And I was very curious where we were going. And so we cut from that back to Frankie in the shed, and he's found like a Playboy magazine somewhere and is flipping through it. And that's when all the guys show up and they're like, oh, Frankie's developed an interest in girls. And they think that's hilarious, and they start teasing him. And this again feels a little mean. Like it again feels like it's supposed to be funny, but it felt, you know, just kind of mean. Like they're like, what if we could get like, what if we got like a giant doll, or like a blow up doll? Yeah, Frankie would like a blow up doll probably, or if we were feeling real nice, maybe we could get like a hooker or something. You know, they're just like, we'll get him a little something to play with, but like, you know, it just feels like they're sort of poking fun at this. You know, like they're kind of treating him as if he's like, you know, just like a mentally disabled friend that they're, you know, kind of mocking and stuff. And like,
it's not very fun.
Yeah, and sure enough, like we just have them like a little later coming back into his shed, and they have like, you know, the standard like bachelor party joke blow up doll that like, you know, is in all kinds of comedies, and they're like, here, this is your girlfriend, and Frankie's, you know, like he doesn't know what to do with it, and they just leave him with this, you know, silly blow up doll, and we just see the guy standing outside of the shed, and like minutes later, Frankie, you know, walks out of the door, and they're like, what happened, Frankie? How'd it go? And he's like, well, I bit her neck and she flew around the room and out the window, and they all just die laughing at this. It's so funny. That whole scene, like I felt like maybe it was just sort of letting us, or setting up things for the guys to know that Frankie's interested in girls, so that when they eventually cross paths with Jamie Lee, there will be like an explanation. But like, I don't know. I didn't love this scene. I felt like it could have been cut, and I don't think it would have really changed anything. But maybe it does start to show that these guys are kind of like, they're sort of cruel to Frankie. Like they, you know, early on they were like teaching him, and it felt like they were being sort of responsible, but maybe they were teaching him to make him a more useful tool. And now that he's done what they need him to do, they're not as kind to him. So, yeah, that's going to sort of set the stage for like how the guys treat Frankie as the movie goes on. But we also, from there, cut to Scott talking to his girlfriend, and finally, you know, the girls, we know they were kind of concerned, like, what's been going on? We haven't seen much of you. You've been kind of hush-hush about what you've been up to. And Scott just tells her, you know, like, we created a monster to kill the guys who hurt Ronnie. And she's like, she's having so much trouble processing this that she goes back and forth between being like, that's impossible, of course you didn't do that, to being like, how could you do that? That's so awful. So she's like, I don't believe you, but if you did do it, that's terrible. But I still don't believe you. You know, I think eventually she's like, if you did it, you need to get rid of this. Like, you can't have a murderous monster living in Mark's shed. Like, that's not good. But I'm still not sure you actually did it. And you know, I think, but like, I don't know, like this conversation takes place next to their swimming pool, and the end of it is her shoving him into a pool. Like, it just felt like that's kind of like a playful thing you do, not after an intense conversation where you're like, my boyfriend's either insane or a murderer or both. So yeah.
And it seemed like they were on the way to go look at Frankie, and then she pushes him in the pool, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
It was like, what happened there?
Yeah, it's very strange. And then like the next scene is even stranger because now we have our 5 surviving friends, and they're like all getting dressed up. They're going to some sort of fancy event, and they're like talking about their outfits. And we still have like Scott and his girlfriend are still sort of like sniping at each other. It's a little flirtier now, but like she's still kind of like upset about the conversation from earlier and is trying to like get past it, but is not quite there yet. And so I was like, what is happening here? And we did have earlier on, there's a very brief mention that Ronnie was an artist. And we find out that she had like a big exhibition that had been planned. And of course now she's dead, so she is not going to be there for it, but to support her and in honor of her, they're going to go attend this exhibit. It's still going to happen. So that sort of makes sense. Like, okay, I get this as a thing. Like, we're going to pay tribute to our dead friend by sharing her art with the world and appreciating it and everything. And like, okay, that makes sense. But they're also, still talking about the murder and like her killers and everything. And the girls are like, I don't want, like, we're supposed to be honoring Ronnie's life tonight. I don't want to talk about her death. That's not what this is about. And the guys are like, yeah, but it's those killers are taken care of. And they're like, no, taking the law into your own hands, that's not okay either. Like, so there's a big divide between like how the girls feel about this and how the guys feel about it. And the guys are also kind of mad. Like, you're ignoring the important stuff. You're burying your head in the sand. You're just trying to like, blindly be positive, and that's not healthy either. So they're very much on different pages about all this.
But also this scene goes on forever, and it also the dialogue just goes nowhere. Like, it's like crazy. Like, there's scenes where like the guy will say like, "Oh, I don't understand the morals of today. I wish I was born in King Arthur's day." And then someone else will say, "Oh, I can imagine you being in with skinny legs and and this on and just back and forth, and like, I'm thirsty. Oh, don't have a drink now. We're gonna have funny drinks at the gallery. I'm just getting water. Oh, well, that's fine. And just on. And I was like, what? And it goes on for at least 7 minutes of this shit. It's like,
yeah, I kind of got the sense
endless, and it's just people that don't seem to like each other, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of got a sense that maybe like Andy Milligan was like, all right, I want you all to just kind of improvise a scene, like your stance is this, and just kind of argue for a while, and then I'll edit it down into like a nice, tight, cohesive scene. And then he just didn't. He just put the whole thing in there. Because yeah, it feels like they keep going back and forth to the same points. And like, there probably is a version of this scene where you like, you find the best little bits from each of the people and kind of like fine tune it. And it does feel like a cohesive, tight cinematic argument. But instead it feels like, maybe more like a real argument where sometimes you do talk in circles with a person and you're just like, it's going nowhere, but you can't stop fighting. But that's not how movie fights go. Like, you don't want to watch that. You want to understand the gist of the fight and then move on to the next scene.
I never got the gist.
Yeah. And at some point, like, the guys go into the next room and Scott says, like, I did tell my girlfriend the whole thing. Like, she knows what actually is going on. And they're like, no, they can't know that. And they start like physically fighting. They're like wrestling each other. And I think that's how the scene sort of ends, is like things are really tense. I think the girls rush in and they're trying to break them up. And then we go to the lab where Frankie is painting Jamie's toenails, and Jamie has some gifts for Frankie, which include a t-shirt. It's just like a plain white t-shirt that she's like written with like a marker on it that just says, "I kick ass." and then like sort of like, you know, just that like an athletic headband that you'd see people wearing like while they're playing basketball or something, that like will cover the scars and maybe also soak up some of the blood when it occasionally sprays out. And then also, you know, a spiked leather collar so that he looks more punk rock like her, and that, you know, they'll kind of like go together more. And she's like, but this kind of thing, you'll fit in on Hollywood Boulevard, but we got to be careful. We don't want like the wrong kind of guys to get the wrong idea. Like, I think she does use a couple slurs here. You know, I think the idea is like you don't want to look gay out in areas where other gay guys are. You know, this felt of the time, but obviously don't love when they're throwing slurs around and everything. But yeah, you're right. But in general, they're pretty cute together, and yeah,
it's probably the warmest part of this film is these guys.
Yeah, every time that Jamie and Frankie are together, like, yeah, it's sweet.
Sweet is a good word.
They like, in fact, she starts singing a song here, and she's like singing really off key, and it's just, you know, she's just making it up. I don't even remember. It's, you know, like, I love Frankie, Frankie loves me, or something like that, you know. And that's when the girls, I guess, hear this from, you know, the house where everybody's getting ready is right next to this shed. They come in and see the monster. They see this for the first time, and they're horrified, and they're like, who are you, and what's this and everything. And Jamie's like, you all should leave. We're fine here, everything's okay, but, you know, it seems like you're kind of upset. You're upset, and Frankie, just go away. And they leave, and you know, she starts like crying, like she's like upset that like these girls came in and they were mean to Frankie, and, you know, that he's all upset. She's like, I'm sorry, like they don't get you like I do. It again feels very sweet, like we have these two misfits in love, and like nobody else gets them, but they get each other. And you know, everything seems good. They kiss, it seems like everything's better, and then we just like cut to later, presumably after the we never see this art gala. Like we don't have the money to rent out an art gallery and have a bunch of paintings, you know, commissioned or whatever. Right. So, but like, of course, the girls have mentioned that they've seen the monster at this point. So the guys come in, and they don't like that Frankie has made an actual girlfriend, not a blow-up doll. And so they like kick Jamie out, and they like, you know, kind of shove Frankie around, and like, no more girls, this is not okay. And one of the things they do to punish him is the big teddy bear that like somehow the magic of the teddy bear is what brought him to life in the first place. They like set it on fire. And like Frankie's crying and trying to stop it, and they put the bear out. They don't like fully burn it away, but they've like singed a good chunk of its fur and everything. And we have like Mark and Scott leave at this. So, you know, early on we had like Scott and Carlos were kind of like the more rough guys, and Mark is like, you know, puts the bear on his chest and all that. But now it seems like Carlos is the one who's maybe starting to like feel sorry for this thing that they've made. So like, yeah, Mark and Scott leave, and Carlos is like, I'm really sorry, I that got out of hand, you know, but it's gonna be okay, Frankie. And he, you know, leaves and turns off the light or whatever. And so then we just have Frankie like crying himself to sleep, holding this badly burned teddy bear, sucking his thumb. Like, it's just very, yeah, like it's heartbreaking. Like, we're seeing how much of a child Frankie still is, and how poorly treated he is by his parents, his creators. You know, this felt very Frankenstein-y, but like, again, sort of like a kid's movie version where we like have Frankie as like a big baby who is being abused. It was this, yeah, this scene was really, really heartbreaking. And while he's sleeping, we have the shimmery magical sounds happening again. And we like a puff of smoke, and suddenly Frankie wakes up, and this guy is standing there in the room, and he introduces himself as Frankie's guardian angel. His name.
I did not see that coming.
Yeah, again, this feels sort of Pinocchio-ish. It feels very like a fairy tale, right? But yeah, Guardian Angel was definitely, like, even as silly as this movie has gotten, definitely was not predicting a Guardian Angel. He says his name is Angelo. Well, technically Angelo 10. There's 9 other Angelos before him. But he's here to help Frankie. He started out as Jamie's guardian angel, and then they added Frankie to the plan, basically, since they're interacting with each other. He's been protecting Jamie for years, because they have, he loves the fact that Jamie and Frankie have found each other, because they both have similarly beautiful souls. They have childlike minds, and they go together so well. And we find out that specifically Frankie's brain came from the writer of children's books. And he's like, your arm came from, even like your gorilla parts were from a very gentle, sweet gorilla. So you're destined to be good and kind. And so it's really great that you found Jamie, this sort of simple-minded girl who is also very good and kind and needs somebody to love her the way she is and to protect her. And
this guy's got a hat backwards, like a baseball hat backwards, right?
Yeah.
And like the painter's. This is like I can't really. It's like a painter's.
It's like a smock. Yeah, he's not. He doesn't look like an angel in any way that we would recognize from anything.
Exactly.
He no wings, no halo. He's just a guy. He's kind of got an Italian accent. Like, he's just a guy.
There we go.
But and he's like, yeah, the world's a dark place, but you two are very bright spots in this dark world, and so it's very good that you're together. And he does explain the angel process here in a kind of silly way. He's like, so angels are born from abortions, and the world is so full of abortions these days and in modern times that we can't, like, God doesn't even have enough wings to go around. So that's why I don't have wings. He has something else. I forget what it, like, the way that he gets around is like he's like on a scooter or something silly. Yeah, so he's born from an abortion, but he's like, I gotta head back to heaven, but good luck, Frankie. You keep taking care of Jamie, and I'll keep an eye on you. If you all need me, I'll be here. And then we cut to, like, again, it's like, where's this movie going? We find out that, like, specifically Mark and Scott, more so than Carlos, are like, well, we have this sort of killing machine we've created. We've got this angel of vengeance. We should keep using it. We did the thing we needed, but, like, there's a lot of bad guys out in the world. So we sort of get, like, a montage of, like, Frankie killing a couple other guys that, like, we're led to believe are also bad in some way. He like kills a garbage man with an axe. And I think we get, like, another, he kills somebody else too, but, like, we see that this is what they're, Mark and Scott are kind of like losing their minds. Like, they just want to kill now. And we get a conversation between the two of them with Carlos, where he's like, I don't think this is good. Like, I think you all you're murderers now. Like, you're not getting, justice for Ronnie. Like, you just can't stop killing. And Mark is like, no, it's just bad guys. Meanwhile, Mark is holding, like, an automatic rifle. Like, he's like, this is just for protection. This is just from, because we're dealing with some bad guys here. I would never kill anyone. We're just, that's what Frankie's for. But, like, yeah, he's just, holding this gun the whole time. And they're like, we need to deal with that punk girl who's been messing with Frankie, because she's going to distract him from the important work we've got for him. So yeah, that, it definitely seems like, they're obviously not interested in Frankie being happy. He is a tool that they are using. Frankie deserves happiness no more than, like, Mark's new automatic rifle does. You know, they're just both things that you can use to kill people. And we cut from that to, I think we get Frankie killing a couple other guys, and then later Jamie and Frankie hanging out. So Frankie's life is, he's living two lives. He's a killing machine, and he's also Jamie's boyfriend. And like those two worlds don't intersect at all. They're like, and you know, again, it's like we get the dark, brutal, gruesome, gory murder scenes that Andy Milligan likes to do. And then we have these very sweet, you know, puppy love kind of scenes between Jamie and Frankie, where like they're chewing bubble gum and she's trying to teach him how to blow a bubble. She helps pierce his ear and blood sprays everywhere. And she's like, I've pierced a lot of ears for my friends over the years, and it's never done that before. But Frankie likes the earring. He thinks it's cool. And he's like, what about the other ear? And she's like, no, that, you know, again, we get a little bit of slur stuff here. That's, you don't want to have pierced that ear. That, of course, this was, you know, nowadays people may not even really know that was a thing. But, you know, at the time it was like, you know, straight guys could pierce one specific ear. I can't even remember if I think right ear was straight and left ear was gay, or I don't know. It was a different time, very silly. And both ears was certainly gay. You could not do that. But this is, I think Angelo appears again there and is like, I want, you know, you all, you know, things are going so well with you two. I want to grant Frankie, you get one wish, whatever you want, one wish. And he whispers something to Angelo and he's like, you're sure that's what you want? And you know, Frankie's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, yeah. I mean, I could marry you guys. If you want to be married to Jamie, I'm ordained. I could perform the ceremony right here and now. And he's like, Jamie, does that sound good to you? And she's like, yeah, I'd love to marry Frankie. So he does a little wedding ceremony just there with the three of them, and then vanishes in a puff of smoke. So now Frankie and Jamie are husband and wife. She's really a bride of Frankenstein at this point. And Frankie's like, you stay right here, I have an idea. And he leaves her alone in the shed, and we just get this like sweet moment where like Jamie's just sort of glowing. She's just happy to have found her true love, found a guy who loves her and wants to be her husband. And she's just like grinning ear to ear as she's walking around the shed. She's kind of tidying things up, just like making, this is their home now. That she, you know, this is where she's going to live with her husband. And so she's just cleaning up. This is Scott bursts in and he's like, oh, hey, I'm Frankie's friend, and he sent me here to I need to talk to you about something. And she's like, okay, well, you know, any friend of Frankie is a friend of mine. You know, we're gonna need friends, I think is what she says. And he's like, well, I heard you got married. I was outside the shed. I could overhear it. And I wanted to give you a wedding gift. And she's like, okay, great, sure. And the wedding gift is crystal meth. And she's like, no, you know, now that I'm settling down with Frankie, I'm going to go clean. I'm going to get off the crystal. I'm going to try to be straight. And he's like, I mean, Frankie's not here. I mean, you might as well have one last hurrah. You know, this is basically, it's like a bachelorette party. You should enjoy it. And then you can go straight and settle down with Frankie. And she's like, well, obviously she's an addict. It's hard to pass up, right? So she takes the meth and, you know, he hands, it's like a needle that she just injects. And then we have Frankie walking in as like she's got the needle hanging out of her arm and she's foaming at the mouth all of a sudden. And then Angelo also, poof, appears in the room and he's like, Frankie, it's poison. Scott poisoned the crystal. So we get like, you know, Frankie's upset. He like beats up Scott, like knocks him down, and then, you know, goes and cradles Jamie in his arms as like, you know, foam is just like running out of her mouth everywhere. And she dies in his arms. And it's just, again, brutal, heartbreaking. Like we had this very sweet, like, you know, I mean, for everything you can say about Andy Milligan, like he definitely knows how to like, build up this positive feeling in a way that when he pulls the rug out from under you, it really hurts, you know? It's just, yeah, this was crushing. And Frankie is like just crying and like yelling incoherently, like he's broken at this chance at love gone. She's and it's like, yeah, I mean, as she's dying, of course, she's like, I love you, Frankie. And I mean, they're really just like tugging at your heartstrings here, twisting that knife. Scott has gotten away in the process, and he's like, he goes into the house and is like telling Mark, like, I don't know, Frankie's gone crazy. I don't know. We're gonna have to stop Frankie. He's out of control. Obviously, not telling him why. And that's when, like, Frankie bursts in a rage. He's made for vengeance, and now he's got a thing he wants revenge for. So I think he somehow manages to get Mark's machine gun away from him.
Yeah.
And I think Scott does this scene is real chaotic. Again, it feels sort of improvised and kind of like cut together. I mean, you get it. You can keep up with what's going on, but it's just sort of hectic. Mark ends up figuring out, like, I think Scott finally admits, like, okay, yeah, I poisoned Jamie. I was trying to get rid of her. And then like Carlos comes in and is like, what is going on? Why is Frankie trying to hurt you all? And they're like, he's mad. We killed Jamie. I think, Frank ends up like, he's chasing them around the house as they're trying to explain to each other what's going on. He ends up shooting Scott to death with the machine gun. And then, Mark comes in and he's like, whoa, Frankie, he's holding his hands up, trying to be real calm. He's like, I know, I heard Scott, I didn't know he was going to do that, but I heard he killed Jamie. That's not okay. But we could get you another girlfriend. I'm sure we can find you a girlfriend around somewhere. I think Frankie, one, is like, no, Jamie was special. She's not just some girl. Like, I loved Jamie. No other girl is going to replace her. And I think he also realizes Mark was part of this too. So he shoots Mark as well. And then he finds a gas can just in Mark's house, which seems That's weird. Right. And just, it starts pouring gas all around the house and, of course, sets the house on fire. And we have, like, the Hallelujah chorus is playing for this whole scene, which...
That's right.
seems like a wild choice. We have the house and the shed, everything's burning down. Then we kind of get, like, he's killed. I don't really I don't know if Carlos just gets away in this, or I don't really think we see what happens to Carlos. But
yeah, I wasn't aware of what happened to Carlos.
But once he sets everything on fire, we just like sort of have an epilogue. Like, we just have Frankie sitting on a park bench, like he's got a small bottle of liquor, like you would see like a homeless person, carrying around from a liquor store or whatever, and he's, drinking from it, and he's sitting next to an old homeless lady, and they're talking, and they seem to kind of, again, because she's an outsider, she's not afraid of Frankie, and they're able to kind of connect. And
he's got like a glove over his usually crazy hand, and he's got he doesn't look quite as crazy as usual.
Yeah, I think he has like an eye patch or something, like you can't tell that his other eye is weird.
That's right.
But yeah, they're just talking, they're connecting, and at some point she's like, were you ever married, Frankie? And he's like, once. And she says, what happened? And he's like, she died. And she says, do you believe that we come back when we die as something new? Do you have some sort of hope that this woman that you loved, it has some sort of afterlife? But Frankie's response to that, like, do we come back after we die? He's like, yeah, I did. And she's like, you're funny, Frankie. Like, I like you. So what do you got next? Where are you going from here? And he says, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll travel. It's a big country. maybe I'll just see the world, or maybe I'll become a doctor or a lawyer, or maybe I could like go into the church. There's a lot of money in the church, and that's a lot easier to get into. You don't have to go to as much school as you do for doctor and lawyer. But I'm not sure. Like the world, he's like, I've got my life ahead of me, basically. And I think I'm going to start thinking more. I'm going to start using my head. I think if you do that, you could do anything. You can be anything you want. You can be lonely and sad, or you can choose to be happy. It sort of seems like Frankie's, he's not going to dwell on all the bad things that have happened. He's not going to focus on the fact that he was used as a killing machine and that his creators, tortured him and that he had to kill. Like, he's just like, I'm a blank slate at this point. Nobody knows me. So I'm just going to try to have a positive outlook and see where life can take me. And so he has this sort of beautiful speech that kind of ends the movie. And then I thought the very last thing that happened in the movie was very unexpected, and I kind of liked it. It sort of after he gives his sort of inspirational speech, the camera sort of like pans up to the sky, like you might see, or it would be like pan up to the sky, and then the credits start rolling, and that's just how we end. But instead, when the camera's just we just see the sky. And then we hear, cut, that's a wrap. And the camera like pans back down to Frankie and the woman on the bench. And suddenly other cast members and the crew just all sort of like walk onto the set. And like everybody's just like hugging and like, we did it. Like, great work, guys. And it just, it was just so neat. I feel like I've talked about this over and over again. When I watch low budget movies that are maybe quote like aren't good in the normal sense, and see, like, if it looks like the people are having fun and it looks like they're telling a story they want to tell, that I find that very charming, and it really goes a long way towards me enjoying a movie that otherwise might not be good in the normal sense of the word. But in all those cases, I'm just sort of like inferring what seems like people are having a good time in the making. But here we see that, like, that's how the movie ends, is like, here's our little acting troupe, and we are having fun. We are, and we're going to show you that. Like, we're showing you that it's just a movie. We were just having fun. We were playing our parts, and now we're just people again. And I don't know. I thought that was like sort of a really beautiful way to wrap up this movie that, has some pretty gruesome stuff and has some kind of silly stuff. And it just was like, yeah, we're just having fun here. We're just all having a good time, whether in the dark parts of the film or the silly parts. It's all just for fun. It's just play acting. And yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really neat. And again, having seen several other Andy Milligan movies, none of the others ended that way. That's just this one. As far as maybe some of the other comedies are similar. I don't know, but
yeah, it's very charming, and it's a very charming ending. I just, it's really surprised me. I really didn't think that group of people were really having that much fun. But good for them. I'm really surprised. It's really amazing. But it was really charming. I was really charmed by that.
And yeah, it could have been the kind of thing that was intentional from the beginning, or I mean, it like legitimately might have been like, cut, that's a wrap, and then this actually happened, and then Andy Milligan was like, you know what, let's put that in. Let's put it in. It's kind of neat. And yeah, either way, it's very fun. Like, I just, sometimes you have like movies where like when the credits roll, you get like little outtakes and stuff, and it's just always, I don't know, there's something there. It just, there's something really like sweet about it. Like that everybody here is they're not taking themselves too seriously, even in like a serious movie. And this movie being sort of like all over the place. Yeah, either way, it just, I liked it. It was a really, really good way to end this. And then we go from there just to sort of more traditional credits. But
well, this was the first of the 4 films that Milligan made in L.A.
Okay.
But he made a couple others. He made a polyester ripoff.
Okay.
And a Zucker Brothers gag-a-minute film called Skull a Kill.
Okay.
And from what I understand, that one is not very funny. But he died in the early 1990s. I think it was 1991. If anybody wants to learn more about Andy Milligan, there's a book called The Ghastly One, and apparently it's a really good read. I'm going to read it.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like that. Like, it might be worth it to read that book and then maybe revisit some of those early films. There might be more to appreciate in them then. Because I don't know. Like, watching the early ones, I got this sense that like this guy's doing something very intentional. Like, it felt purposeful. It felt like he was really trying to say something. They just didn't like grab me. And so maybe having a little bit more context might make them like, that's, you said it's called, one of his earlier films is called The Ghastly Ones. And
right.
It's like, so yeah, the idea that it's the Ghastly One that's him is kind of neat. Like
yeah.
But yeah, he has like, they're movies about just like, people in bad situations killing each other and sort of being miserable. Some of them are sort of like set in 42nd Street in like, present day in the, the 60s and 70s. And then there's some that are like period piece, sort of more gothic things. There's like an evil monk one that I think is called Guru the Mad Monk. And
right.
There's one that like I absolutely love the title of this one. It's called "The Rats Are Coming, the Werewolves Are Here." A title that's 2 sentences long with exclamation marks at the end of both. And yeah, sure enough, it's kind of like a ripoff of like a Paul Naschy kind of thing. It's very it's a gothic movie with werewolves, but. It's low budget. We don't really get much actual werewolf stuff. It's like, we know the werewolves will get here eventually. But it's more about the curse than it is about like the wolf itself.
Well, be careful. Apparently from the ghastly one, as you can imagine, a lot of the people that they interview with, that are still alive, say pretty mean stuff about Andy Milligan, that he was a pretty mean, tough guy. But apparently it's a really interesting book.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to read it. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I may have to track that down. That does sound fun.
Yeah. I was intrigued by his books. I'm sorry, by his films. As weird as they are.
Yeah. He just seems like a guy who's like troubled and like trying to work it out through art, and sometimes that can be good and sometimes it can be bad. But yeah, it does. It seems like his story would be an interesting one to dig a little deeper into.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and if anything else, you should check out a podcast or two. There's some really interesting people who are just kind of intrigued by the guy and just can't stop it.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely will.
And there was a film in Tribeca that hasn't. It was just last year, and I played at Tribeca and Fright Fest, but it doesn't seem to have made a film. It hasn't been in streaming yet, so I don't know about that. It's called The Degenerate. That one's called the Degenerate one. The Degenerate one.
Okay. Yeah, because I think he has a movie called The Degenerates as well. So that makes they're definitely like nodding to a lot of his work. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I'll definitely have to look into that. But I think that's all I've got on this one. Unless you have any other last thoughts.
Well, we've really. That's about it for me.
All right. Do you have anything? I know since we last talked, your video for the Mountain Goat song "Charlie Sheen Reaches Out to the Feds" is now officially out. And wow, it's so much fun. Like, I really had a good time with that video, and I'm so excited for the rest of that album now that I've been able to, like, the pre-order for the album's out. I've been like reading up on it, and it looks like a really fun album, and obviously that song's great, and the video is a really good time.
Well, thanks. The album's great. I think you're gonna dig it.
And
It's
you
a
know,
lot of-
I a lot of times, you know, John Darnielle from the Mountain Goats, like he finds these strange little true stories and like digs into them, and like I've, you know, listened to the song, like watched the video a couple times, and I was like, this has got to be like a story that I'm not familiar with that actually happened, and sure enough, I read up on it, and it's hilarious. Like, it's what a wild story that Charlie Sheen actually saw a Japanese horror film that he thought was a real snuff film and called the FBI, and there was like a whole investigation, and the director of the film had to like show some behind the scenes making of footage to prove that he hadn't actually murdered anyone. Similar to like the Cannibal Holocaust thing, but this one was all caused by Charlie Sheen, you know, kind of being the sort of crazy Charlie Sheen that we know he is. And it's really fun seeing, like, they do, obviously, you know, you set up where like he's in the video, but we only see the back of Charlie Sheen since we don't, you know, have really him and the Mountain Goats playing the FBI. And yeah, it's really fun. Like, it looks like everybody there on the set is having a really great time and kind of being playful and everything. So I again found that very, very charming also.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it is real. When John was telling me the whole story, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. And it was really fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so if you all haven't seen the video yet, absolutely check it out. It's super fun. And if you're not familiar with the Mountain Goats, you know, maybe you want to check more out from them after watching the video as well. Do you have any other things coming up that you want to talk about, or is everything else?
I've got another book coming out pretty soon, but not yet. So I'll let you know when that happens.
Okay. Well, yeah. Obviously, when that gets closer, we'd love to check it out and have you back on to talk about it more.
Cool.
Those are always fun episodes. We'll have to find something, you know, fun and interesting to tie it together like we did last time.
Right on.
All right. Well, and for us, you know, of course, you can always find us on all the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. We're also on YouTube and patreon.com/thefrankencast, where there's lots more episodes, including a fun episode where Tim and I read The Last Man by Mary Shelley and talked about that. So if you want some more from us, then definitely go over there for that. And then, you know, I'll have all the links in the show notes for our stuff and ways to find Tim as well. And then I think next week, Tim, you'll be back, and we're going to be talking about a more recent kind of low-budget film called The Hideous Bog Monster. So I'm excited to get into that with you for next week.
That will be fun.
All right, but until then, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman, Eric Velasquez, and Hayden Orr. Follow us online at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.